Everyone's arguing whether or not the federal government should step in and rebuild California after the fires. But that's not actually the story. The story is, why has California not been able to rebuild when everybody seems to agree they should have? So after those early 2025 California fires, now the headlines are flying. Trump takes over rebuilding. The federal government steps in. But let's slow that down for a second. The federal government isn't showing up with hammers and blueprints, and this isn't FEMA rebuilding your house. What's actually happening is simpler and kind of more uncomfortable. Washington is saying that local permitting is taking too long, so we're going to step in and override. And that's it. We're talking self-certification, permit acceleration, federal pressure on local bottlenecks. And of course, the part nobody wants to say out loud, that if permits were the only issue, well, it actually would have already been done. The permits matter, but it's not the same bottleneck that often we're making it out to be. The uncomfortable truth is you can issue a rebuilding permit on day one and the house still won't be rebuilt. And here's why. Because rebuilding only works if insurance, financing, labor, material costs actually pencil out. If insurance payouts don't cover today's costs, well, there's no rebuild. When the construction bids are coming in 30 to 40% higher than expected, there's no rebuild. If financing can't be justified, there's no rebuild. They're having the wrong fight. The system is broken before the permit counter. And this takes us to the next headline that I really like. Up to 1 million entry-level Trump homes for first-time buyers. Sounds amazing, right? But here's the part I want to be very precise about. This is not a program. This is not law. This is not a rollout. This is a proposal, a pitch from the large builders and capital groups that basically says, what if we built entry-level homes at scale, funded by private capital, and let buyers rent first, then convert to ownership later? That's the idea. And by the way, variations of this have been in existence for decades. But the part that everybody skips is the rent to own part. And hopefully this is where your comments will explode. So let's go here. Rent to own sounds incredible on a podcast. In reality, it lives or dies by the fine print. Who's going to control the price appreciation? Who controls maintenance? What happens if a buyer misses a payment? What happens if values drop? What happens when values spike? I've seen rent-to-own deals help people. I've also seen them quietly strip people of equity while looking generous on the surface. So if you hear 1 million homes and stop thinking after that, you kind of miss the risk. And here's where California becomes the punchline that nobody likes. Even if the 1 million home idea works in parts of the country, it collides head-on with California math. In California, building only makes sense in two scenarios. One, you build large, expensive home on very expensive land. Or two, you build up dense and multi-unit properties spreading across land and soft costs across multiple doors. What we're not building anymore is simple entry-level single-story starter homes. Not because builders are evil, not because buyers disappeared, because the math doesn't work. Now, my question is, if they went back to the 40s and the 50s and even the 20s, at least in my area of California, and they built 2 and 3 bedroom, 1 bath homes that were under 1,200 square feet, would you be interested in them? But let's be honest about what killed the starter home in California. Land costs, impact fees, entitlements, CEQA risk, carrying costs, labor rules, time. When every delay costs real money, builders, well, they stop building the cheap houses. They either chase margin or density. And here's the real rub. So now the same state that's saying we need affordability is quietly admitting that the system is broken. by exempting dense urban infill from CEQA and pushing vertical housing near the transit stations. It's not ideology, it's math winning. So let's connect the dots. Fire, rebuilding, federal permit overrides, Trump homes, California affordability. They're all the same story. They can speed up permits. You can pitch big national housing ideas. You can argue politics all day. But if the numbers don't work, nothing gets built. California didn't run out of compassion. It didn't run out of demand. It ran out of buildable math for entry-level homes. And until that changes, every headline is just noise. So here's the real question, and I'm curious what you actually think. Do we want affordable housing, or do we want the rules that make affordable housing impossible? Because you don't get both.